Café, where we do a little tech soup. I think was a term from the 80s, even going way back to some of the terms. But anyways, we're just chatting tech, having a coffee and a tea. What are you drinking today? Actually?
Coffee. Good old traditional coffee, double.
I switched to tea a long time ago because doctor gave me some orders. I got to knock out the caffeine. So max 2 cups of tea per day. That's what I'm trying to stick to.
Same time.
Anyways, we were just chatting earlier about, I guess the term MSP. It was interesting because, the industry calls it managed service provider, but we call it managed service partner, not provider. And I think it's really a different mindset to how to manage IT. And Dominic's been with us for a while, and his function here is what we call the TAM, or the Technology Alignment Manager. We've got 4 centers in our MSP program, and making sure that there's technology alignment is really key, and it's all standards based. So we thought we'd just have a quick chat here today about what's an MSP, what's why partner versus provider.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot to unpack with that question. I would think with anything, not just specifically in IT, right? But somebody that is a provider versus a partner kind of implies there's more involvement, and I think at the end that's kind of what it's really about. Is if you're going to trust an IT company, well, the way that technology integrates into our business and everything that we do nowadays, you almost have to invite these folks in to the inside scoop of what's the plan, where are we going, how do we want this technology to work.
It's a critical function of business today.
Yeah. Right.
It can't be put off on its side and given directives. It's got to be integrated.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. So there's the kind of classic model of just another service provider versus someone who's a partner. And I think that would be a good idea or a good goal for any type of IT company trying to offer support.
Of the customers that we've been working with, what are some of the key things or differentiators or things that are notable, saying, wow, this is really different when you take a partner approach versus the provider approach?
There's a couple things that really stand out. First probably is the tech leadership. So as a provider, it's almost like approaching a car salesperson, right? Well, I know I need a car, and I know that you can give me the car, and the car's going to help me run my business. But we're in a sales engagement, and I'm untrustworthy of if you're going to give me the best deal, or if somehow this thing's going to break down. What are you making me spend money on, and so on. So a partner is going to have more depth and more understanding about what are you trying to do with the vehicle, asking those types of right questions. Is the vehicle going to meet your needs 5 years from now? Is the vehicle the thing that's going to support the business appropriately? Things, just as an example. So the leadership component is understanding where a company needs to go and understanding how can that be implemented with technology, and give sort of a roadmap about phases, and so that folks that are stepped away from the technology have a little bit of ease of comfort of knowing, okay, I can expect a change here, and I can have a ramp up time and various things like that, instead of maybe just some of the more direct approaches, right? So that's one that's kind of stands out.
Something that I've noted with some maybe traditional break fix is that the business itself is limping with something that's not quite working. Mm-hmm. They're living with it, but really business is slightly impeded, right? And then something finally breaks, and it's the trigger point because they don't have somebody guiding them along the way. Mm-hmm. And you definitely highlighted a critical part, I think, on tech and leadership, which is when somebody is looking at the business as a part of what the strategic direction of the business is, and then tactfully what technology is being deployed right now. And like I said, you don't need to do everything all at once. That's another thing I've seen. It's like the IT guy comes in and says, oh, you need to do this and this and this and this here. Write a check for 50 grand or whatever it is, and we'll fix you up.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a good thing, because it takes time for people to adopt change.
That's right.
Right. And sometimes, technology doubles every year and a half. So by the time you've got something deployed, you might be out of date or not integrating with another system or something, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of things to be aware of. So definitely tech leadership. Yeah. What other ideas you come across, or what are the concepts?
Yeah, most people are kind of, I will say, we'll go back to that provider versus partner. A lot of people that we talk to, so I'm visiting businesses like weekly, sometimes many times a week, and I've been doing that for a number of years, and speaking with the business owners and business managers and hearing sort of where their pains are at. Some of the biggest or most common is, I'm stuck on the phone for half an hour, 3 hours. I might have to call back again, and a third time. There's a famous sort of popular Canadian ISP carrier that people are just horrified to have to pick up the phone to call, because they know, every time I have to call so and so, it's going to be a 2-hour adventure,
Go
right?
through all the questions that I've already asked and done.
This is it.
Yeah.
This is it. So when you get, I think if you choose the right partner, they might have a team that knows who you are, already understands most of the answers or questions that they might ask, right? And so just the ability to get a response of a productive manner without a million prompts ahead of time or regurgitating, we'll say, screen read sort of captions, that is a breath of fresh air, right? And I would say even a game changer.
We answer the phone when you call.
Right.
Yeah, getting a live person on the phone. Like what a difference that
knows
makes.
what you need
That
and kind of knows
yeah.
how to find it without having to be prompted by endless scripts and things like that. That's a huge thing.
There's a lot of great tools out there. For
Mhm.
example, the automation tools that help keep the visibility on all the equipment. So often the partner knows what's going on before the person calls,
Mhm.
because they've been triggered, they see the alarms, or there should be some awareness ahead of time.
That's how it should be.
It doesn't need to be broken even to get an alarm.
That's right.
You can get some anticipation or trend reporting, creating some alarms. So you've got a knowledgeable crew then with a partner that really understands that business, so when they do call, they spend less time,
Mhm.
asking the redundant questions, over and over again. Did you power cycle it? Well, we would know, right? Because we would see
Right.
the triggered alarms.
Right. And then I guess, documentation as neglected as it is, having the alarms, having the tools, and having the knowledge is great, but what if you don't have the documentation about where is it, what is it, how do I get in, what's my logins and all that stuff? If that's not correct in order, well, I might have saved 10 minutes on the phone, now I'm going to waste an hour or two in the back end. So apart from just the documentation, that's something that I run into maybe even more frequently, is that on-site, in a business, in their data closet, or somewhere in their building where their network comes together with their switches and routers and servers and so on. I'm going to say like a high number. I mean like 95%. More than 9 out of 10 times. It's complete disarray. And that demonstrates a couple of things what we were saying, is that just a lack of leadership. And why is that important? It's, well, if I'm the guy that has to come and figure out why is this broken, and there's nothing labeled, and all the cables are different colors, and they're going to different equipment, and they're tangled up in a big nightmare, how can I find the answer, right? And I may sit there for 45 minutes just going, oh
Tracing
my
a
God,
cable.
if I just can't figure out where does this thing plug in, and that's the worst time to get stuck with that, right?
Yeah.
So
You've got owner or manager sitting behind you tapping his foot, right? And when is this going to get fixed? And you're sitting there tracing a cable through a spaghetti mess of
and you know what
wires.
the thing is that it could have been like that for years and years.
Well, usually it is, right? Like
That's
things
right.
get bolted on or added on, and then nobody actually takes the time to step back and say, well, how should this be all working together,
Yeah.
right? And then relaying it all out.
So back to leadership.
Organization's critical, right? Documentation.
Yep. And the leadership. If I've always been using traditional IT company, and I just have my techs come in to do this thing, to repair this thing for an hour, well, they don't necessarily have the purview to look around and find out what else. Or they may see it and then go, oh, I have to go to my next appointment, I didn't, and then lost in translation. So having these pointed visits for particular needs is gonna help everybody, right?
Let me ask about the IT guy, because I know like there's some fear sometimes where the organization engages, we'll say a provider.
Sure.
But maybe the difference in approach of a partner. What have you come across with IT guys? Is it well received? Is it when we're working in tandem with somebody or a team? Or?
It's a good question. Really good question. So, I mean, we know it. We work with IT guys. I'm an IT guy. You're an IT guy. There's certain types of, I will say, common breeds right? The traditional sort of technician, network engineer, generally they're just not that interested in social skills. And that's not to their discredit. They may be absolute masters when it comes to the technology, command line, but striking up a conversation with a stranger and asking them for money to make things better isn't really their strong point, right? So just traditionally, I'm going to say many IT guys are sort of pigeonholed. They might be a little bit awkward compared to, say, a business manager who's spending money all day long and has to know how to approach many different types of people under any type of circumstance, right? Very different reactions. So I find, generally speaking, most IT guys don't know how to ask to get something made better. And if they do ask, there's just this focus that, well, IT's a cost center, so no, I can't. I don't want to. Can you just make sure that it
from
doesn't
the
break?
team, you mean?
Yeah, from the internal sort of leadership team, right? And that's not to their discredit either, because there's just a bunch of unknowns. So there is really a need or an opening for someone that can speak on both sides of the team there and say, okay, this is why we need the technology. I know it's going to be spending money, but again, I like to use an example of, well, if Shirley and Joe are doing our marketing, for example, let's just say it takes them a full day to do one video, and that's maybe in part because their computer's slow. If we could replace the computer and it does that in half the time or a third of the time, how much more could we then ask of Shirley or Joe? Or how much more open would their day be to look at other tasks? And that is a whole different approach from saying, oh, the computer's slow and it's going to break. Well, it's not broken, and they're doing their job, so I don't need to spend the money.
It's
right?
out of warranty. Replace it.
Exactly. So
what's the business case?
What's the business case, right? And I'll use this term. It's almost like the battered IT guy in that, the common response is, well, we've asked and we've asked and we've asked and we've had no. So we just stop asking. And that's where it becomes, I would say, dangerous.
I was going to say business risks increase,
That's
right, at that point?
And who knows who's talking about what's not being talked about? And the answer is nobody, right? So then if we go down that sort of pain siphon, well, when was the last time the backups were checked? Do we have all of our passwords set up? Is there security on the network? If my Joe has been said no a number of times, me as a provider, I'm suspicious that no, some of those important things are being skipped. Mm-hmm. Not to his discredit, but specifically because there's just this non-functional arrangement. So bringing in an outside organization helps, I would say, restore maybe some confidence from both sides, and saying let's put the two together and understand the business case and understand the obligations of budget, and then find a plan of priorities, right? For sure.
Well, thanks, Don. Look, a great day. I'm going to sum up here. So we talked on, provider versus partner, and it's really a different in approach, and one being a little bit more embedded than just waiting. It's like reactive versus proactive, maybe to some degree. Tech leadership is a big piece that we find that's missing. Response time, like customers aren't aware that they can just pick up the phone and call and have a real person answer.
Yep.
It's like, it's amazing how many people are out there suffering with a problem. They don't even want to report it because they never get an answer. They just live with it.
Or they wait for too long, yeah.
Yeah, and then maybe the third thing you touched on was that IT feels a little beat up. They've been said no to how many times that they've kind of either given up, or like I said, they're feeling a little bit beat up. They don't know how to talk or how to get what's really needed in the business. And like I said, IT shouldn't be put aside. IT needs to be part of the business strategy.
Yeah.
And that's probably why engaging a partner is much more valuable than engaging a provider. So anyways, thanks, Don.
Yeah, thanks.
Appreciate
I appreciate you too.
the drink today here, and we'll see you on the next chat.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.